What about your shirt?
That's mine.
You willing to share your shirt?
No, it's on my body. It covers me.
What are you willing to share?
Advice?
Worthless. Worthless. Okay. Listen.
Listen, people.
Would we live in a biosphere? I think this conversation is about to take a turn for the into the real. We're about to get real up in here.
Really?
No, I want them to stick around. Please
Not
stay
really,
here.
but just stick around.
Welcome to Good Mythical More, where nothing really happens, but we want you to stick around for it.
I have some opinions about not this, but your idea of the reality show, because as we discussed briefly there, we were talking about briefly there.
Lizzie said that
there was a
Big
show.
Brother was inspired by the biosphere too.
Right. And
Is
then,
that show still on, by the way?
Big Brother?
Is it? I don't know. I think so.
You think so?
It's had like a million seasons.
It's had a bunch of seasons in it, and they did it in England first, right?
So Maury Povich's wife is still
Connie Chung.
Connie Chung. That's not her. Mm-mm. It sounds really wrong for me to think that was her. I apologize. I can't remember her name.
It was in the Netherlands. So this whole idea of putting people into a place and putting cameras on them is a genius reality show television idea. But they recently did something that was as much like Biosphere as you could have gotten and not be Biosphere.
And you watched it.
I watched like 4 episodes, unashamedly. Utopia on Fox. They made a community in Santa Clarita, right up the road.
Yeah?
And people were gonna go and be in this community for 12 months. And they could not leave,
Now-
and they had to support themselves.
Now, they weren't in a dome.
No,
we should clarify.
It was fenced in, and
fence.
it was outside, and they had like a few supplies, and they put people in there that knew were gonna be crazy, people with extreme worldviews, like coming in together and stuff. Fox paid $50 million for the first season.
What?
And it was broadcast twice a week. I think maybe at least twice a week.
It was happening in real time, because I remember you telling me that we could go to and visit them as like spectators.
If you're watching on a Tuesday, because they also could develop crafts and then sell stuff. Like people, could apply at the end of the show. It would be like, apply to come and visit Utopia, where you can buy stuff that we're making. And then like people would be like, I've been watching you, and I think this and that. Like they'd be on the show like the next week. And
that doesn't sound like the most interesting part of the show. It's for people to drive to Santa Clarita and just be on the show.
No, it wasn't. But it just gave you the sense that it was happening in real time. But it was really, really, really bad.
Didn't someone get injured? Like, did they get their fingertip cut off?
A guy was like trying to catch something, and he hurt his finger. That's what happens when you go into utopian situations. You gotta watch your fingers. Wear gloves if you're ever gonna be in a biosphere or in Utopia.
I would like.
But it was really bad. It's
mittens.
I'll just finish the thought. It got canceled. $50 million, and like 2 or 3 weeks into the season, they were like, you know what? Let's just do this once a week. Let's broadcast this once a week. You know, that was a big fail.
But you kept watching it at that point.
We watched.
You were out.
I watched like 3 Fridays, and it wasn't appointment television. It was so, the people on it were so crazy. Jesse and I felt so dirty watching it. We were like, these people are just so stupid. The way they talk to each other, it's like children.
It's interesting.
It was
that
so extreme you couldn't stop watching
it.
They
banked on the concept, but not the execution. You know, it all comes down to people in the show, whether you're going to keep watching it or not. But the expense, what they were banking on was just the fact that everything around it. But you can't forget the heart of it has to be entertaining. It doesn't matter if it's live or if it's real or anything.
I
mean, reality shows in general have proven that.
I think it was too caricatured. Like you were so like almost convinced that these people, no one thinks the way that this person thinks. That like no one actually thinks the way that this guy thinks. Like, nope, that guy actually thinks these things, and this guy actually thinks these things, and this guy thinks these things, and they all disagree. Won't that be entertaining? It's like
Were there like Survivor-esque physical challenges?
no challenges.
See, that's not good television or a good biodome. Let's go back to the biodome because there also weren't Survivor-esque physical challenges in that either. There probably should have been. They should have had mixers. They should have had.
They did all kinds of things.
I mean, they're a theater group. I'm sure they had put on plays for each
there
other.
was a swamp in there, man. There was a swamp
There was a savannah, right?
and an ocean and a savannah
But
and a
did they-
rainforest.
so they could travel the world giving their little show. But then it was, so what would it be? It's like spectators lining up on the outside of the bubble, like watching them pantomime.
I
their-
don't know how that worked. I don't know if people. There's definitely pictures. Like if you just Google image search Biosphere 2, there's like pictures of the whole crew like up on the glass, like looking out, like posing for pictures.
for Time Magazine when they say this is the worst failure ever.
Right.
But then, so you didn't really talk about the last couple of days, but I do remember that, what was her name, Jane? Jane Pointer,
Yeah.
Connie Chung, Jane Pointer, she took the arrow and she shot it and it hit just right at the top of the dome. And then the whole thing just started to break apart.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you got to wait a year to find out what happens.
Right. Yeah.
Or you can just read the book.
yeah. That's what.
But
it
who's
was.
going to read the book at this point? I mean,
I haven't even seen
I'm
that
invested
movie, and
in
I
the
know what you're
actors.
talking about.
the actor's playing the character.
Yeah. J-Law.
Right.
Yeah.
Lenny Kravitz.
Jane Pointer.
And then it's like, what happened to Lenny? I think he's dead. I think they killed him. Then I didn't know for sure.
What about Donald Sutherland?
Right, him too. Yeah. He didn't die.
He coaches the San Antonio Spurs.
Right. Sports joke.
That's a joke for the 0.3% of you who know what I'm talking about.
Since we're totally making catching fire jokes, let's add a little San Antonio Spur joke so everybody's
Just
happy.
look up coach of San Antonio Spurs.
Okay, I
And
am.
then take that picture and put it up on the screen.
Coach of San. Are you talking to me?
Yep. I'm talking to them too. And then take Donald Sutherland.
Greg Popovich?
Take Greg Popovich and put him next to Donald Sutherland.
You know what? I'm going to do one better than that. I'm going to search Greg Popovich, Donald Sutherland, and see if someone's already done a split screen. And if they haven't, then this is not legitimate. And yes, they have.
Last night, I actually heard a guy.
Good work, Brett.
I heard a guy. I'm not going to take credit.
Who
for this because
knew that we could bring San Antonio Spurs and catching fire
I
together?
heard an analyst. Like Popovich was on the screen, and the analyst was watching the game. He was like, "That's Donald Sutherland." That's what he said. He just said it. He just came out and said it. So
Just said it like that?
yeah,
That's Donald Sutherland.
it's not. They don't. I mean, they're both old white dudes with beards, white beards. I mean, but yeah, that's close enough for me. So anyway, this guy is in charge of it all. The dome.
The biosphere.
The biosphere. He's behind it all.
Right. He really does his house up for Christmas too. You should see all the lights on his house.
I hadn't seen the movie.
You know the people who like that's their thing. Some people it's like Halloween. Some people it's Christmas. His thing is Christmas. I can tell just by looking at him.
Why? Because he looks like Santa Claus?
Nope. Just 'cause I've profiled him.